going to pull out the pattern pieces in the largest size and then measure them to make sure there's enough wearing ease. Looking at the pattern picture, the actual photograph, not the drawings, it looks a little fitted. It doesn't have a lot of wearing ease in there, and this is a peasant blouse and I want it to skim the body. I don't want it to be very fitted at all. So I'm going to double check that, and if I have to make any changes, I'll let you know. If I don't, you'll see me cutting out next. I did end up altering the pattern, and I did film the process. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to post that video or not. I'm just going to go ahead and take you through the sewing of this pattern. So we're going to go ahead and make Butterick 4685, and I'm going to now just show you how to put it together. Laid out the two main pieces, and if you notice, this one I have showing the wrong side, or the back side of the pattern, not the printed side, and that's because I want the tops, the direction to be the same on my fabric. This is really a non-directional fabric. If I flipped it, it wouldn't be as important, but I need that against the fold. That edge and this edge both have to be against the fold, and I really like my pattern pieces all going the same direction, so the tops at the same end and the bottoms at the same end. So after I cut out these two pieces, you can see how I have my fabric folded and lots of nice leftover on this edge. I will open it back up to cut the sleeve. And you can see the sleeve actually might be a little bit wider than my fabric. If that's the case, I'm going to have to open it up flat and cut it and fold it and cut it twice. Just because it's not going to fit in the width folded in half. So we'll see how the sleeve goes on in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and cut out these two. So just as I thought, the pattern piece is wider than the fabric. This is 45-inch wide fabric. And if I lay my pattern piece on here, fold it in half, it comes right off. It's just not wide enough. So if you have a directional fabric, like a stripe or something, and you wanted to do this, you would have to make sure you buy more than is on the pattern. And you will have to open this up. Because I don't have a directional fabric, I can do something different. So you can open this up, and you can cut one here, and then flip it and cut the other one here. So you have to cut the sleeve 2 times to get it out. This is non-directional fabric, so I can have one sleeve cut upside down and it will be fine. Actually, because this is non-directional fabric, I could even cut it on the cross grain. So if this were, let's say you just bought a solid fabric, you could definitely do this on a solid fabric too, and you can cut it on the cross grain this way. This would be last resort, in my opinion, but it would fit here in my little piece. Because I didn't fold it exactly in half, I offset it. I could get it in this. It would actually have to go this way, but I could get it right in here. So what I am going to do though is I'm going to lay it out 2 times on this. So I'm going to cut one of them. I think I'm going to go this direction to make sure I have plenty of fabric. I'm going to cut one sleeve here, and then I'm going to pull this down, flip this around, and cut the other sleeve down here. All right, one more thing when you're having to cut out individually like this. This is where I just cut out from, and I have my pattern facing up, or the printed side up, but you want to make sure you flip it over for the second piece, or you'll end up with 2 right sleeves. And I will have my 2 sleeves, and then I'm going to go ahead and transfer my markings. This would make some cute scrunchies. And probably a face mask out of the scraps. Also make sure you keep your grain line straight. You sure don't want to get your grain line off and have some bias where you don't need it in your pattern. I don't know if you noticed, but when I cut out the shirt, I marked the notches on the armscye for the back of the shirt, and I'm going to do the same thing for the back of the sleeve, like this. And I don't cut the notches out, I just make a tiny little slit through, and just short, like 1/8 of an inch. I don't even go very deep, just so I can tell my front from my back. And now I'm ready to go and sew. Now that I'm all cut out and I've marked my notches, I don't know if you can see that, but see there's little tiny slits through there in the pieces. I have one more thing that I want to mark before I start pinning it together. So this is the front of my shirt, and because they're so similar, the front and the back, I'm just going to take a safety pin and pin through the front. So whenever I see that safety pin, I know I'm on the front of my project. All right, I'm going to take the pins out and I'm going to start pinning the sleeves in. This is such a nice weight fabric. All right, so this is the front. I'm going to open it up and lay it so that I can see the right side up. And I'm going to take my sleeve. I'm going to find the one with the notches because that's the back and I don't want to use it. This one doesn't have a notch. And I'm going to lay front sleeve on front blouse like this. And pin it down. So now that I have that pinned, take my other sleeve and do the same thing on the other side. I tend to, whenever I can, streamline. So now I'm going to take this one and do the same thing. Oh, I never did iron out that little spot. And now that I've done this, I'm ready to sew it. And for me, because I'm going to serge, I'm going to go to the sewing machine, sew it on the 5/8 inch mark, and then go back and serge off the excess seam allowance because I just don't want 5/8 inch seam allowance in my sleeve area. I want it to be nice and trimmed out and not bulky. So this is what it looks like. Right now, I have two sleeves. They overlap each other, and they're ready to be stitched. And then I'll come back and pin on the back. If you saw my little unicorn dress that I made, the little pink unicorn dress, this is the same process. It's put together very similarly. I may at the end, if I put it together and feel like it doesn't fit the way I want, come back and stitch on a little tiny piece of tie that will hang here and will wrap around and tie in the back. I don't know. So that may be coming, we'll see, but now we're ready to stitch this together. All right, for the neck elastic, it has a pattern piece that you can cut out and for your size. So here's 22, which is the one I'm working on. I can tell you now it's going to be bigger than I want, but I'm still going to measure and write down. Instead of cutting this little piece out and then taking my elastic and laying it down and cutting the elastic to the length, this is how I like to do it. I just take my tape measure and I measure my size that I'm working with on that pattern piece and I write it down, and it is 40 and 3/4. 40 and 3/4. So then I go to my pattern and I write down neck elastic 40 and 3/4 for size 22, which is going to be too big. I just know. So that's the neck. The front sleeves are in. I've serged, and then I went ahead and I finished just the edge, the bottom edge of the sleeve. So this is how it is right now. Here's the front of the shirt with the sleeve on each end. I'm now going to go pin the back of the shirt on, do the exact same thing, and I'll be back. I have a circle now. Sleeves are completely in, and I went ahead and serged. After I put in both sleeves, I just serged the top edge because it's going to get turned down for the casing. So now that edge is finished. If you don't serge, if you're zigzagging everything or doing a bias finish, like there's a lot of ways to do your finishing. The pattern has you turn under a 1/4 inch and then turn under again. And it's a little hard. It's not impossible, but this neck edge, it might be a little hard to see in the camera, but it is curved. So when you're doing a double fold over and then top stitching, it's really easy to get some puckers and things not fit together. So I loved serging. It takes out one of the folds in there and just makes it a little easier to get a nice smooth edge when I go to make my casing. Now that I have the sleeves in, I'm ready to flip this around and do the side seams. So here's, and this is why if on my pattern, this is why you have got to mark your center or your front. Here's my safety pin for my front. It's very hard to tell front from back on this, and so by putting in that little pin in the front, it makes it easy. So I'm going to, oh, I just remembered, this has got this little curved bottom edge. So what I'm going to do is make a decision. I'm going to go ahead and do my 5/8 inch straight stitch. Then I'm going to come back and serge off that seam allowance on both sides. So do my side seams to where the little circle on the pattern would be. And let me just fold this, line this up real quick. So if you see this curved edge, I'm going to be sewing to like right here. Then I can come back after I've done both sides, the right and the left, I can come back and just serge all the way around this little curved edge for the hem. All right, so I'm going to do both of those things. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I have a shirt. All that's left is hems. It's completely serged. I don't have any more serging to do now. It's all just straight stitch on the sewing machine, which is so easy. So now I'm going to do all of the turning up and hemming, or turning up and ironing. So I'm going to go to each sleeve, turn it up enough for a casing. I believe this is a 1/2 inch casing is what they've included. I haven't looked at my pattern, but it looks like it just by looking at what I have left on the inside. So I'm going to turn up my 1/2 inch on both sleeves. I always measure, measure and press it so that it makes it easier, and then pin it. So I'm going to do that for the sleeves, for the neckline casing, and the hem. I'll be back for elastic. Here's a little hint for working on this shirt tail hem that curves. Now a normal hem, you just turn up and stitch like this, nice and flat. But on a shirt tail hem, can you see the fullness in here? Now I put lots of pins in there, which will work great, and I will stitch this from the right side, so I'll stitch it from this side, which allows the feed dogs to help pull this in. But if you have a really dramatic curve, what will end up happening is you're going to get little tucks and foldovers on the wrong side. So this is the side where it's going to get stitched. Can you see how nice that curve looks? All you want to be careful about is that you don't get a major foldover or pleat on the wrong side. If you're really struggling, run a little basting line. You only need it on the part that's curved, and it'll help you a lot when you go to put the hem. Time for elastic. I have pre-measured for my neckline, so I had written that down. And then I started thinking, you know what? I don't remember seeing anything about the elastic for the sleeve for this view. So I went back to the directions, and it just said measure your upper arm and add 1 inch. So there were no specific measurements for the sleeve elastic for the view that I'm doing. Now I'm ready to put in my elastic. I'm going to start with my sleeve. I've got my safety pin on my elastic on one end. And for the sleeve casings, here's the sleeve right here. What I always do is I start and stop in the underarm. So right here, you can see the stitching doesn't connect. There's a little hole in my stitching, and that means there's a little hole for me to get my safety pin in to fish it around. I always like to do it in the underarm. It just is inconspicuous. It'll hide where you start and stop your stitching instead of having it on the upper arm or somewhere noticeable. Now this gathers up with the elastic in it. I'm fishing this through so you can see you're going to have little gathers like this, which help hide things. Okay, we're going to pin down the free end here, and I always pin it to my seam allowance so that I don't pull it on the inside. We're just going to fish this around. We've done this lots of times. If you've watched many of my videos, practically anything with elastic, we've done lots of casings like this. This shirt's almost done. I've already finished my hem. And after this, I'm going to try it on and decide if I want to add some ties or something, sort of empire or a little above the natural waistline. Now, almost to the other side. And we'll do this. Okay, so there it is. Do this on all the parts that have elastic, so the neck and both sleeves. So here's my 2 ends. And we're going to sew these to each other. Just do a little overlap. It's about a 1/2 inch overlap. Hang on to them so you don't lose it on the inside and have to start over. All right, so these are going to overlap like that. We're going to zigzag, zigzag, zigzag. Then I can pull this tight straight stitch this shut, and I'm done. So I'm gonna do that part right now. All right, here's my little elastic. It's sewn. I need to trim some threads, but I'm gonna go ahead and just pull this so you can see. When I pull this in, whoop, there we go. Pull that out to the inside. Now I can just pull this flat for a minute and just straight stitch that shut, and my little sleeve is done. Now, before I put the other sleeve in, I'm going to make sure I like how that feels. I know I don't want it too tight. Who wants a super tight sleeve? But look at how cute the shape is on that. Super happy. All right, I'm going to finish up the rest of it. All right, it's not done. I'm trying on because of I thought the elastic was going to be too big up here in the shoulder, in the neckline, and it is. It's really big. It's gaping big, actually. If you were going to wear this 100% of the time off the shoulder, then it might be okay. I think I still want it tighter. It feels very, 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 very loose. Sorry, I'm waving my arm around and holding the mic, but it's just not tight enough. I'm going to pull out a good 5 inches probably out of this neckline. It's not sewn in the back. I just took the 2 ends of my elastic and pinned them down in the back to see where it goes. You can still see I still have here's my little safety pin to mark my front. So I'm going to fix the back, and otherwise I think it's really cute. I don't know that I'm going to want ties. I'll probably put a ribbon or something around just to look at the fit, but cute top. I really like the pattern, especially since I've altered it. So back to the elastic. Okay, got my elastic in, my neckline. I'm getting ready to put it on. But before I do, I want to show you, I'm looking at the inside of it real quick. Because the front and the back look almost identical in every way, here it is, I do this little trick. Can you see that little tiny thing right there? See that? It's a little teeny tiny piece of small rickrack. And this was the hole where I put my elastic through. So before I sewed that shut, I stuck in this little teeny tiny elastic, or rickrack. The reason I used that was just because it wasn't bulky and it wouldn't change the way the gathers fall. If you put in something big and heavy like a wide ribbon or something, which is the other stuff I had, I didn't want to use a wide ribbon because it was too wide. If I had a really narrow one, I would have used it. But this just is, here's the sleeve, so it's in the back near the sleeve, and it just makes it easier for me when I go to put it on. I can look for this little tiny piece of rickrack to know that's the back when I put it on. All right, I'm going to try it on and see how I like the fit. I kind of feel like I'm going to want a ribbon. We'll see. Here's the top finished without a ribbon, and I think I'm going to leave it just the way it is. It skims the body. It's plenty full. It's super cute. Move my hair out of the way. There it is. It's a very fast project. It took me, if I were not filming and stopping to explain things and so forth, I would say this is a 45-minute to an hour project to cut out and sew. Very quick, easy, and fast. And the more you make this, if you make this project multiple times, the faster it gets. So super cute. If I wanted to, I could put a little ribbon or something to accentuate, but I think it looks nice and smooth. So cute. Here's a little, can you see the little hem? All right, I'm gonna take a couple stills.